Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Alright, so more good things coming this week. We saw yesterday, I put up yesterday some new models for Heresy, and it looks like they're following that up with some more new stuff for Heresy, which we'll take a look at. But first, we're going to look at something a little bit, I guess, juicy for all those Black Templar players, and they're actually showing us some rules and a new model for them. So we'll start off with that. So it's looking pretty exciting for them. So we'll come in here. So when it comes to burning heretics with the Black Templars, flamers are so last millennium. Yeah, so we've got a new type of flamer for them, and we'll take a look at it. So the rumors have been circulating for a while now, but with Codex Supplement announced on our roadmap and new cover art revealed, the fervent prayers of the faithful have been heard. The Black Templars are on their way. What's more, they're bringing some shiny heretic purging war gear with which to immolate anyone foolish enough to besmirch the glorious name of the God Emperor. Behold the Primaris initiate with Pyre Blaster. Yeah, so it's like a long-range flamer, which we'll see the stats for. So, you know, this is really interesting. So they give you some hints down the bottom. So it looks like we're getting an actual... At first I thought maybe this is going to be an upgrade kit, but possibly not, because you can see here with the... with this sort of tabard thing that's underneath and how it's locked into this leg, that means it's a whole new model, which means, it should be, which means that we're not just getting chains and little things, we're getting what looks like to be a whole kit, and there's definitely embossed shoulder pads here and so on. So we might actually be getting like a themed box with whole parts that are just designed for Black Templars, which is really interesting. You know, with a lot of the other ones, we've just had upgrade sprues and that sort of thing, which are just, you know, shoulder pads and, you know, helmets and things like that. But this looks like to be whole legs and body. So, yeah, really interesting stuff. That might be a whole new kit, which is, I think, a first for the modern stuff, to have like an entirely standalone kit for another Space Marine chapter that isn't like, yeah, because I think Space Wolves and all those other ones, they all use the basic stock kit and just have upgrade pieces. But this looks like an entirely, you know, its own thing. I could be wrong with that, but from the way this is looking, that looks kind of possible. Or at least there's going to be maybe some models which are done in this style. Maybe not. Maybe you have the standard kit, but then you have, you know, a specialized sprue that has like the special weapon guys and maybe a sergeant and that sort of thing, like some sort of like special character sprue of sorts, but for intercessors and all that kind of thing. That could be how it is, but it's hard to tell just from this model. But it does look like there's at least one body type that is, you know, Black Templar rated, which is really cool for Black Templars, but also really good for Space Marines generally. So this type, if this does exist and it is going to be like a whole kit, then that's going to be really, really good for, you know, doing successor chapters, doing, you know, homebrew chapters and stuff like that, because things with like robes and that sort of thing are really useful. You can do a lot of your own unique stuff on it. You know, there's a whole range of things with chains and so on. All of this type of imagery is great for other chapters as well. So I'm really liking the direction, because that just gives more options for conversions and Marine players generally, which is cool. So yeah, well, let's take a look at the rules now and see how this is going. So the Pyre Blaster, 15-inch range, so yeah, longer. Assault D6, nice. Strength 4, AP -1, and 1 damage. So yeah, all pretty standard stuff here for the stat line, but the extra range is what's important. So I guess that means, you know, coming out of Deep Strike and things like that, this is going to be a bit more useful, and certain other strategies that you want to employ, you're getting that little bit extra range. I don't know how, you know, ultimately meta this is going to be, but it is pretty flavorful for Black Templars, and, you know, it's a cool thing, right? So I'm sure, you know, some tricky players will figure out ways to maximize this and utilize it. I'm sure they're going to have stratagems. I wouldn't be surprised if they had stratagems or abilities which buff these stat lines for flaming weapons. That seems very likely for Black Templars. So even though this doesn't look like super OP right here, there might be ways to bump the AP or damage or strength on this weapon, which kind of feels like that's what's going to come. You know, if it follows the usual kind of trajectory of these things as the books have been going, there's going to be ways to buff this and make it, you know, over the top, like 100%, considering flaming weapons is one of their things. And if you have a look at any other armies that use flaming weapons or that sort of thing, or have this, like, I guess, real niche thing that's very particular to them, they generally like to pour a lot of rules into that or make something about it, which is really cool. So, all the cover art and everything has a ton of flaming weapons, so there's probably going to be something to do with that. I can't imagine there not being. And so just down here we get, you might have noticed that the Pyre comes complete with chain attaching to the warrior's wrist in the traditional manner of the Black Templars. Perhaps that's a hint at what else is on the way, or maybe this particular chap is prone to misplacing his belongings. So yeah, they're basically hinting at the fact that this is probably part of a bigger kit or something like that. So yeah, really, really cool. And it's nice to see that other chapters are getting some love. So especially something like Black Templars, which hasn't really seen anything, as I said last time I talked about this, for like 20 years or something. So really, really cool. All right, so let's get on to the real flavour of this particular episode, and that is more Horus Heresy. I'm really starting to get into these new models. I think they're looking really, really great, and even Ultramarine ones. So the Ultramarine Legion Praetors are ideal for avenging Calth. All right, so let's take a look. Yeah, really, really nice. So, yeah, they're just hitting their stride with these models. I said that before. I'm loving all of the design directions that they're going in, the fact that they're a lot cleaner, slightly larger. We're getting like better shape language overall in terms of the anatomy and all the pieces here. Feels much, much more bold and more in line with their current range. I know that's going to be a bit upsetting for some that have all the old models and so on, but yeah, I think you can probably work them in. I mean, obviously, if they end up changing like the core units, like your troops and stuff, that's going to be a problem for people that have armies before. But if it's just characters and things, I think you can get away with that. Most people put characters on bigger base, like on taller bases and so on, and do all kinds of elaborate stuff. So, slightly increased size and scale probably is not going to be too bad for just your characters. But overall, I mean, just from a painting point of view and a hobby point of view, I definitely prefer this. It's a lot easier to work with and paint. As I said before, I'm getting old and my eyes aren't what they used to be, and trying to see all the details. As this has got tons of detail on it, the bigger the better, in my opinion. In my own brand, Blighter Gods, if you want to see in the description down the bottom, I like to work in larger scales, and even the busts that I've got on the site there, the STL files, they're all done in a large scale, and it's just nice to be able to work that detail in a bigger scale and to paint it. It's a lot more forgiving in some respects, harder in others, but just in terms of being able to see that detail and paint it is a pleasure. So yeah, I'm glad to see it here. It's looking cool, and we also have then the one in the Terminator armor, so he's really cool as well. So much like the Imperial Fist ones we just saw, they're getting this sort of love and update, and I'm assuming that's why we're seeing so much temporarily unavailable stuff and out of stock stuff on the Forge World site, is that what's looking like is happening is that they're going through a massive overhaul of the range and an update and a design shift and overall presentation of their product, and that's going to be good. If they're following suit with a lot of what the Games Workshop's doing with their other models, we're going to see a lot more of this cleaner style, which ultimately is easier to paint, as I said, and should bode well for the future for them to get more players interested in Heresy and make it more substantial, so we see it last longer. It'd be such a shame to see this system fall on the wayside because of lack of interest, and I think one of the ways to improve that is this overall presentation. Even just the fact that they've changed, the way their painters do the models, they're much more in line with heavy metal style and Games Workshop style generally, which I think is much better. Just visually to look at this is much more presentable and eye-catching than your more sort of war-torn sort of realism style of some of their older models. Although that's really beautiful, like those look really cool in the flesh. Like if you look at those models, in reality, with all like things like pigment powders on the bases and around the legs and a lot of damage and all that kind of stuff, a lot of sort of atmospheric kind of painting techniques on them. That looks cool, like when you see them in reality, but they don't photograph very well. They're very dull. There's not a lot of contrast. It's not really eye catching and eye popping when you look at it in photos. Whereas these, under good lighting, they just come alive. The contrasting in tones and values across this model is much more appealing, and so I think that's just a natural, a no-brainer for a company. If you're presenting models, you want to get the most vibrancy out of those shots as possible. It doesn't do well to just do that sort of moody stuff. It doesn't really work to get that bigger appeal, I guess. That's just a few thoughts I've got. I sculpt, I have my own brand. Not that I'm very good at any of that stuff, but I certainly understand some of the ideology or the reasons why they might choose to go in this direction. So all in all, really, really cool. I can see tons of conversions here, although this is going to be a bit hard to convert because it's all in resin. You got to get rid of all these U's, but it's definitely a challenge, but not completely impossible. It's only a few of them there that you've got to grind off and then re-green stuff over with some other emblems, because this is a really cool model and very, very cool if you can convert it to other chapters for sure. Even for 40k, having like a cool old school style general for your Space Marine army or something would be really, really fun. So yeah, I'm really happy with what's going on with this. I think it's awesome. It doesn't tell you when these are going to be coming, but I'm assuming very soon, since they're showing them. And yeah, it looks like really, really good times for Heresy. I'm just hoping it continues. So if you've liked this, please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one.